A very warm welcome to the fastest three after qualifying for the FIA Formula One Belgian Grand Prix. In third place, Sergio Perez. In second place, Charles Leclerc. And the fastest man by 0.8 of a second, Max Verstappen. What a lap in Q3, Max. You had a large margin over the field. Just how good did it feel from inside the cockpit?
Well, to be honest, I crossed the line and it's quite hectic out there. You know, it's still only one dry line. In some places, you're still not even doing the full dry line. It felt all right. But honestly, I didn't know where I was until I looked on the screens. But Q3, that final lap, I think was very good. I just risked a bit more compared to all the other laps. You know, leaving a little bit of margin, which almost knocked me out in Q2. So it was tough out there today, you know, to get everything right.
Just how difficult was it to find the limit in those conditions?
Well, it's more about not actually find the limit, because then it's very easy to make a mistake and hit the wall. So it's all about just trying to leave your margins and just build up to it, basically. But yeah, it seemed like it was a bit tougher today. I think also because the sun was out at one point, so the track was drying really quickly, lap after lap.
Are you surprised by the 0.8 gap to the field?
Yeah, but honestly, I do know that we have a very good car, but I think it's more just, you know, having a bit more luck with the line or the grip. You know, I think it's not. If it would have been a full dry qualifying, I think the gap wouldn't have been like this.
Can you talk us through Q2, the end of Q2? Just what happened there? It was close.
Yeah, it was close, but again, I had to abort my first lap because I went wide over the white line in turn 9, I think it was, or 8. So I had to abort that lap. Then I did another slow lap, and it just felt like I probably lost a little bit too much temperature in the tires. And then because of that mistake I made in 9 or 8, I don't remember the corner. I just took a lot of margin there, and it was way too much. And with the track ramping up that quickly, it was very, very, very close.
So, Max, you're going to be starting the race on Sunday in 6th place. What's possible from there?
Last year we started 14th, and I think this year the car is better. So I'm still targeting to win the race for sure.
All right, best of luck with that, and very well done today. Thank you. Charles, let's come to you next. A great session for you and Ferrari. Just how happy are you with how things went?
Happier, for sure. I put quite a lot of work in those conditions, half wet, half dry. I knew it was one of those conditions where I was still struggling with the car. I didn't have the right feeling in Barcelona, I cannot remember the other races we had, but we had 2 or 3 races in a row where we had those conditions. And today I felt much better in the car, so this was positive. Still very far from Max in Q3 especially, but yeah, all in all, I think in Q3 we could have done things a bit slightly better. I don't think pole was possible. I'm sure pole was not possible today, but we probably could have been closer going a bit later in Q3.
You were talking about the wet, dry conditions yesterday in the press conference. You say you've made changes. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you found this extra pace when it's like this?
Honestly, it's more changes with my driving style. I have quite an aggressive driving style, and in those conditions, it just didn't work for me. So I was making too many mistakes and difficult to build from a solid base. So I changed a little bit the approach, and it seems to be better.
Tell us a little bit about the track conditions and how difficult it was to find the limit, or as Max says, not quite find the limit.
Yeah, it was very difficult, especially 8-9 was horrible. You will get into the corner and you never knew how much grip you will have, and you just had to trust the car to grip again, because in between 8 and 9 there was really low grip, and then in the middle of 9 you will get the grip again, and you just had to trust the process. And as Max said, you can never really go over the limit in those conditions. So you just need to go step by step and get the closest possible in the last lap of Q3.
Let's throw it forward to the race then. Last time you were on pole here, you won in 2019. How confident are you of doing the same this time?
Not confident, especially with the two Red Bull guys right behind. I think they've got a much better race car than we have. So, I mean, it's great to be starting first, and I think it gives us a good chance to have a great result. But to say that we'll target the win, I think is probably a bit too optimistic. If there's an opportunity for whatever reason, as always, I'll try and get it. But I believe it's going to be difficult to keep those guys behind.
All right, very well done today. Thank you. Good luck on Sunday. And Checo, coming to you now. Very well done to you. Your best quali for a while. Just talk us through it. How satisfied are you?
Well, I think in these conditions, it's so easy for it to go wrong. We already saw in Q1, if you are in the wrong side of it with the tires too warm in the final lap or so on, it can be very, very tight. Even in Q2, I had the wrong engine deployment because I did consecutive laps, and that just puts you really, really close to the limit, So it's just one of those sessions that is so tricky to find the limit, and you have to go with the track. And already in I think every single qualifying was quite tricky today.
There's another qualifying session tomorrow, sprint qualifying. What have you learnt today that could help you tomorrow if the conditions are the same?
Well, I think certainly we have a good information about the crossover times and where the circuit is it's damper, but it always changing, here in Spa. So we will find out tomorrow a new challenge, I'm sure.
Okay, and in the race with Max's penalty, you're going to be on the front row. Just talk us through your prospects for winning this one.
Yeah, well, I will try my best. I will try to get Charles at the start, which is always hard, but I think it's also a long race, high deck, so anything can happen on Sunday. We certainly have a good position.
Checo, do you want to get him at the start, or do you want to get him on the run to Lake Home?
Well, it doesn't matter. As long as I get him, that will be my target. But I think tomorrow we got a very busy day, so it feels like Sunday, it's miles away now.
All right, look, very well done to you. Thank you. Let's open this to the floor now. Who has our first question, please? Name and publication, please.
Christian Mehnert, motorsportmagazin.com. Question for Max. I guess the new gearbox is a bit of a tactical change as well. You could have swapped probably later in the season, but here you can overtake usually. But with these conditions, it's all a bit mixed up. Don't you fear it's a bigger risk to take it here?
I think it's still the best place to do it. I think Sunday looks more and more dry. So that's why I guess we still went for it, basically.
Thanks, Max. Yep, another one.
Alex Canlocus, Autosport. Another question to Max, please. Max, you said earlier you risked quite a bit more on that final Q3 lap. I just wondered, could you just tell us which particular corners? Thanks.
Mainly turn 8-9, because I think I was incredibly slow there before, because I had a few moments. I almost crashed in 9 in Q2, so even in Q3, my first run, I was very slow there. So then, yeah, on my second attempt, I just went a lot faster there.
Thank you. Yep, more.
Claire Cottingham from Race Fans. Question for you, Charles. You've spoken a lot about the mixed conditions and how much you've struggled, and especially, I think, in Hungary and Spain. Could you just elaborate a little bit more? Have you unlocked something that's a bit different? You mentioned your driving style, so what's changed that's made it so significant that you're sort of on pole? Thanks.
Honestly, it's very difficult to give the details because it's very slight changes in terms of driving style, but that makes a big difference at the end. As I said, I have a very aggressive driving style, whether it's in full wet or full dry, which pays off in those two conditions. But whenever I'm in between with slick tires, then it doesn't really pay off. And there I tried different directions, also with tools. So the way the car is set up and the way I can change it from one corner to the other. And this gave me much more confidence straight away, and the lap time came better.
Thank you.
Niharika from Sportscator. A question for Max. Max, you had a heated conversation, or rather a rant with GP. Could you shed more light on that? And is that your normal banter? We don't get most of the radio. So, yeah.
I mean, that happens sometimes. Most of it is normally always blocked off. But, yeah. I think we can be quite vocal or emotional, but we always solve it afterwards, so it's all good.
Thank you. Any more? Any more? Yep. Another one?
Okay.
Rodrigo França. Question to Max Verstappen. Max, did you imagine, because 10 years ago you were announced here in Belgium as the youngest driver ever in Formula One with Toro Rosso. I think you were 16 at that time. Did you imagine almost 10 years you were sitting here, 2 world titles, in a way to win 3 world titles with top 5 winner of all time? How do you see your life changing so much in 10 years?
It feels like a long time ago now. Honestly, I always had this approach of like, we will see. Like, I was like, well, you know, I made it now to Formula One at the time, and I was like, well, we'll find out how it goes. I mean, I didn't really put any expectation or whatever. I mean, I always tried to get the best out of myself, and I jump into the car and my preparation. But you don't know in your career where it's going to end up, because it also has to do with luck. I mean, I could have done the same steps I've done, you know, from Toro Rosso to here. But if the car is not competitive, then you're not winning races or championships. So it all needs to come together. For some people, it happens sooner. For some people later, it never happens. That's also a part of Formula One, and I was well aware of that when, you know, I got into it, because that's just how Formula One works. So, yeah, of course, back then I wouldn't have imagined anything like this.
Thank you, Max. Yes.
Ronald Vodding, motorsport.com. Another one to Max on the final minutes of Q2. Do you think that in hindsight that Giampiero was right because he feared that you might run out of battery and the track improved massively? Or do you still think that things could have gone a bit better in those couple of minutes?
Honestly, there is no need for me to comment on that here. I'll discuss it with him.
Thank you. Yep. Another one.
Tim Kraai, gpblog.com. Question to all drivers. We had very few time in FP1 to set up the car. Can you explain a little bit how hard that is to drive then a qualification right after that?
Max, let's start with you.
It's definitely a bit more hit and miss, because we went onto the slick tires during qualifying, and then you finally start to pick up a bit what the car is actually doing. I think luckily it wasn't too bad, but yeah, I mean, honestly, with these kind of sprint formats, you know, when you have a FP1 like that, but even if it's like fully dry, it's still sometimes a bit hit and miss, and that makes it always very chaotic. That's why I never really enjoy these kind of weekends, because you just don't have the time, and then once you do a mistake, you are stuck with it for the rest of the weekend, and I don't think it should be like that. So for sure you can do better things with the format, but I guess they implemented that for this particular reason, that there's a bit more chaos and people not getting it right. But I don't think, you know, with how advanced everything is in this sport, that it should be like that on a Friday, if you arrive with the wrong setup or you make the wrong call after FP1, that you're stuck with it for the rest of the weekend, which basically also happened for us in Brazil last year. It's just super painful.
Yeah, especially for the race, is going to be very tricky because we didn't do any long runs. So also for time management and all of those things, we are just going in the race with a big question mark. So yeah, it's going to be important to analyze everything very well straight from the get-go on Sunday. Try to understand in the first few laps where it's going, where the degradation is going, how it looks like, and then adjust the strategy as quickly as possible.
I think the biggest concern is come Sunday, because we haven't done any high fuel. We don't know how the car is gonna behave with the heavy tanks, the ride, how it will be. So it's always a massive concern going into the weekend basically blind. And like Max says, you can get it wrong very easily.
Thanks all. Yeah, a few more.
Question, Max. Max, given your Belgian and Dutch identity, how important is it to win here compared to Zandvoort? And is it also important for you to dominate here just as much as you dominate it in Zandvoort?
I think it's important to try and win everywhere. For me, it would be weird if I want to win more here or in Zandvoort. I mean, it's nice and I really appreciate, of course, all the support I have, but I want to win on any track because that's my motivation all the time. I want to do the best I can. But for sure, you know, when you have all the fans around the track supporting you, it brings a big smile on my face and it makes the weekend a bit more enjoyable for sure.
Thanks. Let's do one more. Yep.
Alex Canlocus, Autosport. Question to Sergio, please. You're in the top 3 after the sprint qualifying in Austria, but this is your first time back in the top 3 in a sort of regular qualifying session in quite a while. How satisfied are you with your performance? Thanks.
Yeah, I've certainly had a bit of a rough patch with the car and with my driving style. I've been working on it, and it's no different to any other driver out there. I think the drivers. We go through these periods where we are just finding our sweet spot. It has happened to anyone, but yeah, it's a long season, and like I always say, people only remember where you finish in Abu Dhabi. So for me, it's still a very long season ahead. I want to get my season back on track, but I know, and I've done it before, so I think we're heading in the right direction.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Very well done today. Thank you.